Hello BookTube, it's Leanne Cooper here, and today I'm bringing you my September book haul. So we are coming up on what I'm calling my 1 year anniversary on BookTube. It's going to be at the end of October, and I would say for the most part since beginning my channel, I've been really good about not breaking my book buying ban, or only breaking it in very small increments, maybe like one book here, one book there. And this month, well, kind of last month and this month, I've just thrown it out the window because I wanted to buy books. And this month I definitely spent too much money on books, but I got so many really good books, it's hard to feel guilty about it, and things that I've wanted to read for a really long time and that my library doesn't have. So the first thing I purchased at the very beginning of this month was a pre-order, and it's appeared in a couple other videos, and that is The Glasstown Game by Catherynne and Valente. This is her new middle grade fantasy novel, standalone. It is about the Bronte siblings as children, and they go into a magical fantasy land from their imagination, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book, and I just really love Catherynne and Valente's work, and I wanted to support her by pre-ordering her book and telling my local indie bookstore about this book so that they would start carrying it. So yeah. And then everything else in this book haul I bought used. So I'm participating in the Cozy-a-thon. I will leave a link to my TBR video for that up above if you want to check it out. For that readathon, I specifically wanted to read 2 books that I didn't own and that I couldn't get from the library. One, because my library literally doesn't own an English copy of one of the books, and then 2, because the other book, they don't have very many copies of it, and there's a really long wait list. There was no way I was going to get a hold of it during October, which is when I specifically wanted to read this book. And those 2 books are Chocolat by Joanne and Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. So I went out yesterday specifically looking for these 2 books from my used bookstores. I ended up finding both of them at the second used bookstore I visited, and I purchased about 5 other books while I was looking for them at the first used bookstore. So I picked up these, and then at that other used bookstore I found Maisie Dobbs by Jaqueline Winspear. Yeah, Winspear. I've seen The Big Haired Bookworm talk about this book. She's been reading them and they've sounded really good. Definitely my kind of cozy mystery, which is early 20th century lady detective cozy mysteries. I just love kind of historical cozy mysteries in the vein of Miss Marple or Miss Fisher. This sounds a lot like, to me, Miss Fisher kind of, which I love. I saw this for 50 cents. It's the first one in the series. I had to grab it. Also for 50 cents, I found a copy of a perfect, unread, I'm pretty sure, copy of The Hours by Michael Cunningham. This is his Pulitzer Prize winning novel. There's a really excellent film based off of it. I love the book. I also love Virginia Woolf in general, her novels, her writing style, so I'm very curious to see what Michael Cunningham does on a literary basis, not just the film, not just plot-wise, to evoke her work in this. And then the last 3 books were a little bit more splurgy. They were all $3 a piece. The first one I found was Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. So I've seen Simon over at Savage Reads and Lauren from Lauren in the Books talk about Kate Atkinson, and this book in particular, I want to say this is their favorite Kate Atkinson. I could be wrong about that, but I'm curious about Kate Atkinson because she seems to be somewhere in the middle of literary family drama thriller territory, somewhere in the middle there. And I've always said that if I could find Life After Life for a good price, that's the one I would buy and try out, because I also think structurally it sounds like a really interesting novel. It's about a woman born at near the beginning of the 20th century who dies and is born again and goes through her life dying and being born again. So life after life. And that sounds quite interesting. This is definitely kind of an intimidating novel. It's a little over 500 pages, but we'll see. After that, I also picked up Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. I recently mentioned this in my high school required reading video, which I'll leave a link to up above, even though I've never actually read this novel, which is kind of a shame. It's considered kind of a queer classic, and I've never actually read any Jeanette Winterson, so figured I'd start here, the most famous book. And then the last book was, I debated whether or not to buy it, and that is the Jane Austen Book Club by Karen Joy Fowler. And I debated about this one because this feels like a book I should probably get from the library instead of spending $3 on. But I really love the movie that they made out of this, even if it's a little cheesy. I quite enjoy it. And what cinched it for me is that I've been doing this. At the beginning of the year, I started rereading Jane Austen. I still have to read Sense and Sensibility and Mansfield Park to finish off that reread, and I really want to finish that reread before the end of the year. So I figured I would read this after I finished my reread as kind of a piece of supplemental modern literature that's inspired by Jane Austen, that discusses Jane Austen, and just, you know what, it's fun. I think it'll be fun. These are all of the books I purchased in September, even though I'm on technically a book buying ban, except for maybe Life After Life. I do plan on reading all of them pretty soon. I will for sure get through these two at the beginning of October, and probably this at the beginning of October. Technically this is on my September TBR, but I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. I think most of these short little literary fiction books will make really good palette cleansers in between series books. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this video or you like my content and you want to be notified of future videos. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.